Complete game coverage of the Cougars is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. The Cougars get set for a home showdown with Stanford this Saturday. Your home for the best coverage of Cougar football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Woo!
It is your Cougar Preview Show. We do it every Wednesday from 1 to 3. Tomorrow it'll be your Ute Preview Show, and then Friday it's a Football Friday with Alema Harrington and Ron McBride. Joining us now, he is the color analyst for the Stanford broadcast. John Platz, kind enough to join us. John, how you doing?
Hey, John.
Real good, guys. Hans, Scott, thanks for having me on.
Fired up to chat with you. Is it sunk in to say from the ACC, Stanford? How hard has that been for you?
Still trying to get adjusted to it. I mean, you're talking to a native Southern Californian who played basketball at Stanford in the 80s and grew up rooting for USC in the 70s. So Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12, that was in my blood. However, I'm not as young as I was then. I realized the realities of the world, and so the ACC it is, but it has been an adjustment, and it continues.
So, John, I got done watching the Hawaii-Stanford game. I call color for BYU, and I am just getting ready for it. And the thing I came out thinking was Stanford is not this 20-point team that I just saw against Hawaii. When you watch that thing play out or watched the film back or went back and analyzed it, give me your thoughts on this Stanford team.
Well, I think the issue in the game was the offense. I thought the defense actually played pretty creditably. But, you know, the questions coming into the season were, new quarterback room. Ben Gulbranson, the former Oregon State starter, came on board. Elijah Brown was the returnee. Those two were the ones that figured to battle it out. I mean, Dylan Risk also transferred from UCF. So, unlike a lot of most Stanford teams in the past, you didn't have the established quarterback situation. So that was kind of a wait and see for all of us. And Gulbranson had a real good camp. I was at multiple of the practices, but it didn't hum in the first game. He was 15 of 30. The thing that I noticed, and I'm sure you picked out from the stats, was less than 4 yards per attempt. So it wasn't. I don't think it was a real ambitious passing scheme, which is appropriate. First game under Frank Wright, get the quarterback and receivers in rhythm, get some continuity, and it just didn't happen. And so that sort of affected the whole thing offensively. I mean, Micah Ford was terrific, over 100 yards, got the one offensive touchdown, but it was the offense and really the pass game that was I think to Stanford's detriment for the most part in that Hawaii game.
Do you think that it's and I don't want to put you in an unfair situation here, but is the leash long there? Is it feel like Frank Reich might be willing to experiment with other quarterbacks in that spot to see if he can get that spark?
Again, Frank Reich new to Stanford. He's tremendous. I mean, he's tremendous with the young men. You watch him. Andrew Luck has him for this year, and he's enthused about coaching. So we don't know what his track record is, though, as far as quarterbacks. My guess, guys, would be that it will be Gulbranson again, and the leash. I mean, Frank Reich has been around. He's in his 60s now. You play volleyball with the quarterbacks, and the sum of the parts may be even less than it was. So I don't anticipate that. But again, Frank Reich has preached competition, and so you get a game or two more. And there's stuttering in the offense. You may see a change, but I don't anticipate any change for BYU.
So, John, just to go a little bit more detail with this, I saw the right guard got hit with a push-pull in the first quarter. I saw the offensive tackles got pushed back a little bit, drift, gave up some pressure. It felt like the offensive line was giving up a bit, but it was still 2.5, maybe 3 count where Gulbranson could get that ball out of his hands. So how much do you put on the offensive line, and how much improvement can you see from an offensive line?
Well, I think the offensive line is a work in progress, particularly the left side. The right side, I think, has a couple of stalwarts for Stanford. Khalil House moved from left tackle to right tackle where he is now, and Simeone Pale at right guard is the returning incumbent of excellence, I would call him. So it would be the left side, but from my eyes it was okay. I mean the throws that were there were some get it out quick throws, guys, that just weren't on target. and throws to the flat. I noticed a couple to Sam Roush, Stanford's tight end, who has some NFL attention coming his way. Throws it for, that made him have to dive for the throw when he was essentially uncovered in the flat. So it's just, it's on target kind of stuff. I think part of it too is, again, when you have an incumbent, those throws are practiced in April and May and June and after practice. And so they become second nature, but there just isn't second nature with Stanford with the new quarterback situation. So I think, getting the kinks out, it remains a work in progress. Hopefully for Stanford fans, it'll be better against the Cougars on Saturday night.
I do games for Utah State, so I know that Hawaii trip is not an easy one. With that being said, does this coaching staff like the fact they had a week off in between these two games? It's a little early for a bye week, but also understandable when you start week 0 in the Islands.
No, I think it came at a great time. Again, for the reasons I just articulated. I mean, you've got some new dudes getting used to one another. I don't mean interpersonally, but just game speed stuff, right? You can do all the reps you want to in the fall and in the spring, but there's something about game speed that getting used to one another requires reps as well. So again, I don't know that they are able to mimic game speed more so in the last week than they were, in August. But I do think that it's very fortuitous, particularly again for the quarterback room and for Ben Galbranson to have that week. Coach Reich, being a former quarterback, I mean, he can dice and dissect this and help the young man more so than he could have if you jump back into another game.
We talked broadly about the defense, just a little more in detail. I felt like linebacker number 35 and D lineman number 91 playing more interior. I felt like those are the two best defenders that I saw on film. Would you agree with that? Or if not, who else would you put up the top of that category?
Well, I mean, in that game for sure. Clay Patterson, transfer from Yale, where he's, if not at the top, he's among the top 2 in career sacks, came over to Stanford, was dinged up most of last year, but he had a couple sacks in the game, obviously had the strip that was recovered for a fumble or for a touchdown in that first quarter in which Stanford had that 10-0 lead mid-quarter. So he had a real fine game. He had the unfortunate celebration penalty, which the coach talked to us after the game about, obviously, and wants to coach up the young man on that fine line between enthusiasm and passion, and are you going to draw the laundry. And then Matt Rose at inside linebacker. Stanford's two best players last year were inside linebackers. They both have moved on, Gython Bernadelle and Tristan Sinclair. So we were wondering what's going to happen there at that inside backer position. But Matt Rose from Brecksville, Ohio, grandfather played at Notre Dame. Multiple siblings played college sports, and he was tremendous. He had 12 tackles, and I want to say most of them were solo. So he was all over the place. So those two definitely were the standouts in the Hawaii game.
So when you, it's a new landscape of college athletics, and Stanford has been a perennial power for a good chunk of time. How hard is it for Stanford, given the restrictions of the school and kind of the purpose of the school, to adjust to these times of college athletics?
Well, Hans and Scott, it's an interesting time for all of us, and it is for Stanford as well. I mean, for forever it's been, well, Stanford, is sort of on an island, and they're going to do things their way with their admissions, and they'll hope that they'll catch lightning as they have done in stretches with Andrew Luck and Christian McCaffrey 10, 15 years ago, and then in other periods. Late 90s, Stanford, or 99, Stanford went to a Rose Bowl, obviously Jim Plunkett and John Elway. So there have been these patches where Stanford has been able to do its own thing, do it its own way, and still excel. But it's been up and down. The history of Stanford football has had these peaks, but it's also had these valleys. Well, Stanford has a new president, Richard Levin, a graduate of the school, and he sort of gets the fact, that whole thing about football being the front porch, as far, culture, making your school culturally relevant. In addition to academic, excellence, you need cultural relevance to maintain the student applications and donations. And so Richard Levin installed Andrew Luck as the general manager. Obviously, a big name in Stanford history. Everybody knows Andrew Luck, the number 1 draft pick of the Indianapolis Colts, and led Stanford to 2 New Year's Day bowls his last couple of years. Andrew's all in, and I mean, and the awareness of the need for fundraising He's on that. So Stanford is evolving by necessity in the whole college, NIL, revenue sharing, house settlement, all of that. It's not standalone anymore. It's all right. We're getting in the game, and Andrew is shouldering a lot of it. The good news is he's really into it. I mean, this is almost a perfect transition job for the former NFL player, and so Stanford's all in. Now, how quickly can they do it? Who knows? How successfully can they do it? Who knows? But Stanford has a plan, and they're not standing alone anymore.
So, John, give me some of your initial thoughts and perceptions of what BYU is. I know it's hard off this Portland State stuff, but give me some of your thoughts on what you're expecting to see on Saturday night.
Well, I mean, it's not lacking for storylines, guys, is it? I mean, Bill Bachmeier, it was at Stanford spring ball. I mean, this has to be a first, right? Someone plays spring at one school and starts against that school the following or the same year, calendar year, September. So I'm looking forward to that. Love the Bachmeier family. Tiger was, of course, on the Stanford team before he went to BYU as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing Tiger play for the Cougars. But look, I mean, the perception of BYU is they just don't have they don't have come down. I mean, the last 5 years or whatever, they're among the best in winning percentage, in the top whatever it is dozen, and it's solid again. I mean, I think the Big 12 has been great for BYU. It's way more than it's just the quarterback legacy. So yeah, I'm Bachmeier. I think is a big part of it, but that defense is veteran and they fly around. I watched tape of the Portland State game and. It was impressive. Hard to see weakness. There's a lot going on that offense with the jets and the orbit motions and that sort of thing. So it's going to be a mental test for Stanford, in addition to obviously the physical excellence that Kalani Sitake puts on the field.
I wanted to revisit before we let you go the Andrew Luck, and you mentioned he's all in because there's a lot of these guys that are coming in and they're just being kind of figureheads and making a phone call or two to a recruit. And then there's other guys that are just jumping in and cannonballing right into the water and saying, I want to be a part of this. I want to help build this. And it sounds like Andrew Luck's on that side of it. Just how much of an impact do you feel like he's made and will continue to make this athletic department?
Enormous, impossible to overstate it. I mean, a year ago this time, he had no inkling that this was coming. This was an initiative of the Stanford College president who realized that Stanford was, had faced, 3 or 4 years of 3-9 records, and you don't want to dissolve into irrelevance with your football team. And Andrew, who had returned to the Bay Area after concluding his career, he's taken some graduate courses in education. I believe he got his graduate degree in education, was volunteering across the street at Palo Alto High School coaching. He accepted it. And I tell you, you see it in his face. I mean, there's a lot to this job. I mean, there's the dealing with the university and educating them on what Stanford is doing in football and why it's important. There's the budget, right, for the athletes. There's he's supporting Coach Reich. I mean, Andrew was handed the dilemma of it's March and Stanford needs a head coach. And so Andrew was able to persuade Frank Reich, his NFL coach, his final year, to come out of retirement and come all the way across country from North Carolina to coach this team, and was able to get Frank Reich enthused about it. So, Andrew really is, in a lot of respects, the face of the university now. I mean, that's kind of the way Stanford has worked. Jim Plunkett, I know you guys know that name, Heisman Trophy winner, 1970, way back. He, charity events, he kind of was the face of Stanford in a lot of ways. Not that he sought it out, but just it's the name that kind of rolled off people's tongues, whether they were followers of Stanford athletics or other things Stanford. And so Andrew kind of slides into that role, again, without having sought it out. But you couple that with all the skill set, the manifold skill set required to do this GM thing and try to get Stanford back winning. There's a lot to ask, but Andrew's really smart. And like I said, he's really into it. So that's the best part of the current situation for Stanford.
Is Frank a candidate? Like if he falls in love and the team does well, is he essentially a candidate, or has he made it known this is just a one-year thing for him?
The latter. He's made it known. He's got grandchildren, and his sort of his base family back on the East Coast. He's native of Pennsylvania, so yeah. I've heard nothing to get around that. He came out of retirement. He has high regard for Andrew Luck, and I think he's embraced this. I think he's found it pleasant. The weather and the type of kids he's coaching, but this is a one-year deal, and I would be surprised if that changed for any reason.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on short notice. We appreciate it. Have a great call, and look forward to catching up with you down the line.
See you out there, John.
Yes, Scott Hans, appreciate it. And Hans, I'll see you at Lavelle Edwards on Saturday.
Yep, we'll see you out there.
John Platz, color analyst for the Stanford broadcast, kind enough to hang out with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.